I don't do that right away, I get 5 minutes into a meeting and forget. As most of you have seen, we're just asking you to introduce yourself in the chat box. If you aren't familiar with how to find the chat box, you can usually go to the bottom of your screen and there'll be a little button called chat as one of the menu items. You can also find your mute button, unmute button. You can turn your video on or off. Whatever you feel comfortable doing is fine. With that, I think we'll get started. We wanted to give some time towards the end for a roundtable, so we're going to dispense with the update from Boone, at least reporting out. Hopefully you did get a chance to see his update through email that he sent out yesterday. And if we have questions on any of those items or something that we might have left off, please feel free to save that question for the roundtable, and we'll ask that of Boone then. But with that quick introduction, hopefully you all have seen past minutes. I know a couple folks have sent some slight corrections to Boone on the minutes. If you have any other corrections, be sure to just feel free to send those right off to Boone through an email correction. We appreciate those, and then we'll be posting those on a Project Wildfire website following this meeting from last time. Also, again, I just note we are recording these and posting them to YouTube. And we'll share that link after the meeting as well once those are uploaded in a couple days. So look for those if you know somebody else that wants to see that and wasn't able to join in today. All right, so with that, we are going to welcome Chad Santola. Chad's with Solid Waste Department of Deschutes County, and our real kind of point of contact for all the Deschutes County solid waste sites for FireFree, which is in full swing right now. And we thought it would be interesting as we continue to talk to people about, of course, this year's been very interesting, but we planned this well before all the stuff transpired or started talking about it, at least. It would be interesting for folks at Project Wildfire to really get the lowdown on the inner workings of FireFree, and especially what happens with all the material that we collect. So we invited Chad here today to do that, and just want to say thanks, Chad, in advance for taking the time to put together a quick presentation and answer some questions. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chad.
So, one little technical thing here, Boone. I am not seeing the menu bar at the bottom, so I can put up charts. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm not seeing that.
Okay, should be if you come down by the bottom there, Chad. As you move your mouse to the bottom, it pops up from the bottom, and you should see that share button come up.
It's not coming up.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in all of our test runs here, but it's not in this one. I'm pulling my mouse to the bottom, and I got participants, chat, share screen, record, and reactions. And
yeah, it's a share screen one.
Okay, there we go. Okay, all right. Okay, all right. Let's see. Okay, so thanks very much for inviting me to this. Didn't realize you had such a large following in your group here for this. So a little background on me. I've worked for Department of Solid Waste since 1999 as operations manager. I take care of operations at not landfill, as well as our 4 rural transfer stations we have scattered around the county. A little bit of history on FireFree. So again, I started in 1999, and I asked around for history prior to my joining Deschutes County, and nobody has very good memory of what happened in the early days of it. So, excuse me. So all the numbers and discussion I'm going to have is based on my experience here. I've always kept good records on the FireFree program. So Back in 1999, when I started, we were doing 2 weekends and not landfill only. So that was 4 days worth. And then in 2001, we added our transfer station system. Let me pull up a chart here. So everyone see that volume chart there?
We can see it. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so 1999, we're doing not landfill only for 2 weekends. And in 2001, we added 1 weekend at our rural transfer stations. Back in those days, the transfer stations were open Friday through Monday. So we did a Saturday and Sunday collection at those sites for 1 weekend, and that got us this little bump up right here in 2001. 2007, we extended not landfill to a 9-day. We were still doing 1 weekend at the transfer stations. It was a Friday and Saturday in those days. And we went ahead and did 2 weekends of not landfill. So we had a bit of a bump. 2008, we added the West Bend Depot. And we do 2 days at the West Bend Depot. This year, we're doing 3 weekends on it. And in 2017, I think this is the wrong chart. I'm sorry. 2017, we extended not landfill to 15 days. Bear with me for just a second. My charts kind of malfunction at the very end here. Okay, so yeah, I can't quite see the end of the chart here because I've got a bunch of views going here. Boone, is there a way to turn off the little windows on the side here? I can see Ed, you, and Greg Bryant here. Can I minimize? Oh, there we go, minimized it. Okay. So 2019, we had a pretty good bump when we extended to 15 days and extended at our transfer stations as well. Next chart I want to show you. Well, let's see here. Why am I not able to? So I seem to have lost you. Can you still hear me?
Yep. We can hear you.
Yeah.
If you want to switch applications, you may have to stop sharing your screen and then bring up the other chart.
There we go. Okay. Yeah, that did it. Yeah, thank you very much. Sorry, I'm kind of a newbie to this here. So, so let me get to my next chart here. So, so this is a program cost. So a little bit of history on the cost of the program. When I took over the program in 1999, we would grind the yard debris up and it would get hauled. It would be transferred over to Deschutes Recycling. They would make compost out of it. As the yard debris program grew, the recycling center takes yard debris year round. And through the 90s and 2000s, their volumes coming in through their day-to-day operations continued to grow. And it got to a point where they just simply could not handle it anymore. One of the things that happened was in 2000. So when we were taking yard debris to Deschutes Recycling to this point here, and in 2005, when they stopped handling it, the contractor we were working with for our FireFree program was able to find an outlet for it. We were trucking the material to a biomass plant where they were combusting it as boiler fuel to produce electricity. We were paying grinding costs for the contractor, but the contractor picked up their transportation costs by selling the ground material to the biomass plant. So we didn't have any trucking costs to deal with. We did that for quite a few years. It was a great deal. The material was going away for free, essentially, with some minor costs to with the contractor. But what happened in 2014, 2015, that material is very low BTU fuel. It does not have a lot of heat value compared to other products that they typically burn at a biomass plant. And those plants were accepting that material with a tax incentive. So they were getting a tax break by taking these low BTU fuels. 2014, 2015, that tax incentive went away. So all of a sudden we were faced with having to deal with that material, because if there was no tax incentive, the biomass plants wouldn't accept it. And so what started happening was we were taking it to not landfill. So you can see here a big bump in costs, and that was primarily driven by the trucking costs. Again, the contractor was covering the trucking costs by the value they were getting at the biomass plant. But once that went away, the material we were having to truck all the material from our transfer stations to not landfill, and that was where one of the biggest expenses came up. Also at the time, the sheer volumes of material we were accepting just continued to grow and grow. Once we lost the biomass option, we had all this material at not landfill. What we ended up doing with it, what we've been doing it to date now since 2014, is we take that material, we grind it up, and we use it for something called alternative daily cover on the landfill. A couple things about not landfill: we're what we call ourselves a dirt poor landfill. We don't have a lot of soil that we need for our operating of the facility. One of the DQ's requirements is that at the end of the working day, we apply 6 inches of soil to the top of the working face on the landfill. Working face is the area where the garbage is currently being placed. If you think about it, 6 inches of soil every single day starts taking up a lot of space in the landfill. And again, with us being dirt poor, that reduces the amount of soil we have for our other needs that we have out here, intermediate cover and for final cover on the landfill when we're done. So we were able to use that material as alternate daily cover. We get DEQ blessing on this. We don't have to apply 6 inches of soil. We essentially apply 6 inches of ground yard debris to the working face. So that ends up saving us soil in our operations, and that material does decompose. So that 6 inches of mulch we place on the working face eventually decomposes, so it doesn't really take up 6 inches of space on the landfill. That's essentially what we do with it. So kind of recap the history. We used to take it for composting at the recycling center. For a number of years, we were enjoying a biomass tax incentive for it. And ultimately, in the end, that material ended up going to the landfill as alternate daily cover. So I want to talk a little bit about what's going on right now. So 2020, I kind of alluded to the fact that things are a little bit different this year. We had originally set the standard 9 days at not landfill and a couple days at our transfer stations. And as the coronavirus thing started up, we kind of put the program on hold, went through a number of iterations with the county commissioners on what we're doing with the program. And ultimately we decided we would do 2 full weeks at not landfill and 2 full weeks at our rural transfer station. So far to date, as of today, we've had just over 11,000 vehicles enter all of our facilities. That's definitely higher than it was for a 9-day event last year. And we've taken in about 36,000 cubic yards of material so far. So we're kind of ramping up to get this huge influx of material. One of the challenges with taking material and grinding up for mulch and using it as alternate daily cover, the volume we get lasts us about a year. We were still placing the last of last year's FireFree material on not landfill within the last month or so. And we've learned over the years, we got to spread that stuff out to avoid spontaneous combustion in it. So it starts taking up a lot of space on the surface of the landfill, which isn't a real problem for us. But this year, we're kind of concerned about the sheer volume we're going to have, depending on what things look like at the end of the event next week. Some of the material that's at not landfill, we may just push directly into the landfill and dispose of it directly rather than grinding it up. We're just kind of concerned about how much we're going to get out of all of our rural transfer stations, plus what we'll have on the ground at not landfill. So, we're pretty flexible with it. And, we'll deal with it as things develop over the next week or so. So with that, yeah, we're kind of speculating our costs this year. We're probably going to bump up to close to $400,000 for material and labor costs associated with it. We've had to ramp up staffing. One of the challenges is the commissioner decided to do not landfill plus a rural site simultaneously, and we've had to spread our people out pretty thin for FireFree as well as running the landfill. So we've been talking about next year's strategy, and we'll definitely want to get the transfer stations and not landfill on the staggered schedule rather than trying to do them all at once here. It's definitely been a challenge for us to get enough bodies together to do this, but we pulled it together though. So, any questions for me?
Great, yeah, and people can feel free to just come off mute and ask Chad a question, or if it works better for you to put it in the chat, I can read it off to him. And you can find the chat button at the bottom of the screen on the menu as it pops up.
You had mentioned that when you put 6 inches of the material down, if you just, that it would just add up over time. But how long does it take for that 6 inches to actually break down? You mentioned that it breaks down fairly quickly, but how long does it actually last?
Yeah, we really don't know. We have, we've only been running modern landfills since 1996. Things decompose in a landfill fairly slowly. If I use the term relatively fast, that was a little bit of a misnomer there. Organic material, food waste decomposes fairly quickly, kind of further down the curve on that. We're going to be monitoring the site for years and years and years. So it's difficult to speculate how one particular material decomposes quicker than another one. Not landfills can reach capacity in 10 years. We're going to have to babysit the site for 30 years after that. And then for 30 years, we have to demonstrate we're no longer a threat to the environment. That's not going to happen in 30 years. I don't think anyone's walked away from a landfill in 30 years. There's going to be gas production coming out of the landfill, decomposition of organic material for 100 years or more. And we'll be babysitting it, and that FireFree yard debris is going to be part of that component.
Chad, if I can step in, this is Tony DeBone. I know there's a difference between trying to cap it and keep moisture out, or recirculating moisture and even adding moisture. So that is a kind of a man-made process, or rain also is the main supply. But either trying to keep it dry, which stabilizes it, or trying to introduce moisture, which will decompose it.
Yeah. So the way the federal rules are written, landfills are kind of like a dry tube. You put a liner on the bottom of it. When you're finished with the landfill, you cap it with an impermeable surface. So in theory, any moisture that's in there is all the moisture that's going in. What we've learned over there is that's not the best thing. I mean, ultimately, we want all the waste in the landfill to decompose. Once it decomposes, you're not producing landfill gas. You're not producing this liquid called leachate in the landfill. So what we did in about 2006, we did a trial, they call them demonstration project, and not landfill leachate, the liquid that accumulates on the bottom of the landfill. We pump it out, we recirculate it back into the landfill. So we're using the landfill as a bioreactor. And the DEQ, I think the demonstration project lasted 2 or 3 years, and the DEQ gave us the blessing on it. And right now we're in the middle of cell 8, and that cell's going to have that capability as well. So all the liquid that comes into the landfill, we're just basically recirculating, keeping the garbage nice and moist to help with that decomposition process. We're not authorized to take liquid waste. A liquid waste landfill is a little bit different ball game. Frankly, we don't have a lot of liquid waste generators in the community here, so there really isn't any demand for that. Whether we'd have to bolster our designs for the landfill if we were to take liquid waste, I'm not sure, but we've never ventured there. But regardless, we do take the liquid within the landfill to keep the garbage nice and moist. Guarantee a landfill in the Smoky Valley couldn't do this with the sheer rain they get. Rainfall is a kind of a small component of the liquid that's in the landfill, and so that we're managing it that way. That does help with the decomposition process. Again, we've only been doing modern landfills since 1996, so how long that decomposition process is going to take is just simply an unknown right now.
Great. Looks like Bob has a question.
Yep. Thank you, Ed. Chad, Are those costs gross costs or net after you take out the money you get from biofine and the sales of the mulch that you're processing?
Well, that's the cost of Deschutes County. The recycling center, not landfill, is operated by a private company, Deschutes Recycling. They're part of our public services. So the revenue they get from the sale of the compost products and the money they get for accepting yard debris, it's all part of their operational costs. You know, the county does subsidize recycling to some extent. I've been told that the yard debris receipts and the compost sales are a big component of covering their costs over there. So we don't enjoy any benefit financially from their yard debris and compost sales. What we do get is the benefit of that material not coming from our landfill. So the costs you see are basically our contract costs for managing the FireFree program. Most of that money is in the grinding and trucking contract for dealing with the material that we'll be collecting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Chad, there's a couple questions in the chat that are kind of related to that question. Just to be clear, right, that all the material that actually comes in through FireFree is separate from the Deschutes recycling mulching process, right? So
yeah.
Tony said, how valuable is the promoting the sale of compost to make more room? And then Jeff Amaral from Ben Parks asked, how much of the FireFree material is used to create compost is sold versus used as alternate daily cover. So
yeah. So the answer to the second question is all the FireFree material that is coming in will be ground and used as alternate daily cover on the landfill. It does not get to the composting facility. They get enough material year round to keep themselves busy. They're pretty much running at capacity these days. Or if you come to not landfill, see how much material you got on hand there. They just simply couldn't take anything that we would generate on the FireFree program.
Right.
Hey, I've got a question. This is Greg. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Greg.
Okay. Pertaining to, I know that when the virus happened, there was a lot of people going to the landfill with extra stuff. And I was just wondering if you'd calculated how much over the normal was. That would probably be FireFree stuff, but people had free time, so they did it then.
You know, it was a kind of an interesting phenomenon. Initially, we thought that, so in addition to material coming to the yard debris program and not landfill, we've seen a bump up in the amount of traffic coming to the landfill itself. We thought in the early days it was that people were thinking not landfills would be closing to the public because of coronavirus, and so people were kind of hurrying up and getting things done. Since this coronavirus thing has been going on, everyone is sitting at home looking for something to do. They're doing yard work, they're cleaning out their attic, their garage, so all that material is coming here. You know, I get monthly reports from Deschutes Recycling on their yard debris. Not to get too technical, but composting is actually regulated under our air quality permit, so there's some calculations on air emissions that we have to do for that. I haven't seen the numbers for April yet, but I'm sure they're up. And actually, even though the traffic and at FireFree at not landfill, we are running longer, so we had expected that. But I think overall, there's not as much coming in as we were anticipating. And I think that traffic we've seen in the past 2 months in relation to the coronavirus response has definitely put a dent in what we would deal with directly at the FireFree program.
Yeah, and I was one of those.
It's been a challenge. Traffic has been a huge issue for us here. We've been seeing people coming in like we haven't seen before. In the blogs with my trade organization, the Solid Waste Association of North America, kind of the uniform number around the country is everyone's seen about a 30% bump in traffic and tonnage at their sites. And that's probably, I would guess that's probably what we're seeing here.
Okay.
All right, I don't see any more questions. Anybody else want to ask Chad a question? Well, we have them here. Okay, well, Chad, thank you. That's just a good bit of background information for folks as we continue to have conversations about FireFree, and we'll be reporting back to this group next month on what actually what our totals are after we get them all totaled up here in another week or so. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
All right, we're going to move on to roundtable discussion. And we tried to save some time this month. We haven't had a lot of time the last couple months for roundtable. And so I am just basically going to go down the list and call on folks. And, you know, if you have a update, great. If not, just let me know that you'll pass. So I'm just going to go down my participant list, and Allison Green gets to be the first one, being that her name starts with an A. Allison.
Glad to talk to you all this morning. I don't have any updates, but it's good to see all your smiling faces.
Okay, great. Ariel with Oregon Department of Forestry, have anything for us you want to share from ODF?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Gordon Foster could not make it today, but I have some updates. Just that our crews are expected to come on June 1st. We've submitted 2 grants just this past month, Western States grants. One for the Three Creeks, we're calling it the Three Creeks area, to include areas of Sisters and Bend, and another one that includes South Prineville. And then we've got just a little status update on the grants that we've got for fuel reduction projects. We've got 2 that are drying up around the White Shoes Sisters areas. And, but we still have funding for South Deschutes, Lapine area, and around Prineville. So that's pretty much it for the updates I've got from ODF.
If you have any questions for any of the folks, let's just go ahead and capture those in the chat, or feel free to ask those at the end of each person if you have a question. So next one on my list is, I think it's Alexis Scharf.
I don't have anything.
Okay, great, thank you. Then we'll move on to Bert Newmeyer, Tilcomb Village.
Good morning. I found Chad's a presentation interesting because I just had a chance to total up our numbers. It's the preliminary numbers. I wanted to do that before submitting the fuels reduction grant, and our community has doubled this year the amount of debris that has been either gathered and is going to be going over, or has already gone over through trailers and truckloads of things. So I'm going to be curious to see what his numbers are like. Aside from that, we're trying to come up with a little bit of a plan for using our state farm money for some kind of a small event. It's really frustrating not being able to have large groups, but we're thinking about getting the fire trucks out for the little kids or something like that. So that's where we are right now, just trying to think about some kind of a community event, or event that would be in small groups or something like that, maybe during the summer when things begin to open up a little bit more. But that's it for me. Tilcomb Village, thank you.
Great, thanks, Bert. Looks like Bill Booth let me know he's gonna pass, so we're gonna move on to Chuck Allen. I'm gonna ask Commissioner DeBone to maybe provide just a brief introduction. He's invited Chuck to join us today.
Great, thank you. So yeah, Chuck Allen is an invited guest involved with an air quality index online map. East Base Labs is a local group of technology enthusiasts kind of working on projects. So with that, I'm going to hand you off to Chuck Allen. I think he's going to share a URL and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Tony. Yeah, back in 2017, one of the co-founders of eSpace had this idea of creating a network of air quality sensors around Central Oregon, pretty much to augment what DEQ had. At the time, they had 3. Now they have 5 or 6, but I think only 4 are showing on their map. So we began a program with OSU Cascade to, as a part of their senior energy engineering program project. So we built these sensors up last year, and then this year we did another project with OSU to develop a calibration device, because we use, let's see if I can get these to show up. Yeah. We use these little Chinese sensors from Plan Tower. Everybody uses these. DEQ uses them, Purple Air, everybody who uses them. And they're reliable, plus or minus 15, 20%. So with the calibration device that we created with our OSU Cascade student team, we've gotten that accuracy plus or minus 5%, which when you're measuring little 2.5 micron pieces of particulate matter, you only care about relative numbers anyway. Absolute numbers don't exist. So behind me, I don't know how to share my screen, so I just did it as a picture. The website URL, I'll spell it out, is well, actually, I'll type it into the comments, aqi.espacelabs.us. And if you go there, you'll get the screen that's behind me. And if you click on any of those little bubbles, it'll pop up more information about the site. I can see the whole one here because I've got it on my other screen. And we have sensors all the way from Madras all the way down to just north of Lapine, which is Tony's house. We have sensors several around. Oh, there we go. Well done. Not sure how you did that, but great. We have sensors out at Elk Lake, out at Little Lava Lake, one up by Redmond Airport, or sorry, yeah, Redmond Airport, Sisters Airport, and Bend Airport. The one out by Redmond Airport's offline. On top of St. Charles Hospital in Bend, and I'll get the one out in Prineville up and running this week. Now, what you're seeing, they're all 0 because it's been raining, the air is very clear, but during fire season, those little puppies really light up. They go from yellow to red in big numbers. And the idea is just to let people know where the smoke is, because again, DEQ's, they have one in Madras, one in Sisters, one in Madras, one in, Sisters, Bend, and Prineville. So we've tried to expand the map, and we collaborate very closely with DEQ. As a matter of fact, I'm building a unit right now that's going to co-locate with their unit at the pump station so we can compare our readings. But you can follow this throughout fire season and get a pretty good idea of where it's smoky, where it's less smoky, and where you might want to go hiking or biking when you can hardly breathe in town.
Thank you very much, Chuck. My thought is that if people can digest what's going on there, if we want to bring it back in the future and talk about this more, we sure could. One of the reference points I have as a commissioner is we had a real smoky summer a couple years ago. We had fires in Southwest Oregon, and the smoke was traveling all the way from there into Canada, remember? So we had this smoke event when we didn't have local fires, and we've had local fires. But what I saw is I went to a DEQ commission meeting, and we had a mom come in very upset because she had downloaded an app on her phone, and it said, that the air was bad or whatever. And what I saw is we didn't have a reference point for, okay, well, is the air bad here? Where is this app on your phone telling you the air is bad? Should you send your kids out of the house or not, or to go to the playground at school? So people really respond to this when there's visible smoke in the air during smoke season. So as a group, it'd probably be good for us to think about what that means. How can we use this most effectively, and how can we not really scare people? I've been watching these numbers for a week or two, and everything's green right now. We're seeing the numbers go from 0 to about 10, 15, and 20, but I think that's just kind of bouncing around in the noise, and Chuck could correct me if I'm wrong. So I haven't seen it go to 50, 100, or 200, whatever the numbers are going to be during a smoke event.
Yeah, the only thing I would caution you, these are relative numbers, and they are AQI numbers, not PM2 particulate matter 2.5. But what you do see is, let's see, we don't see it on the map that's on the screen, but sometimes you'll see one, particularly at Elk Lake or out at Sisters Airport, because we're at the campground. The numbers will be higher than anywhere else. Doesn't mean they necessarily have a fire, but if somebody's got a campfire going, or they have the fireplace going at Elk Lake Resort, we tend to pick that information up. You'll see it. But when fire season shows up, if it shows up, hopefully it won't like last year, these things will be very indicative of what's bad and what's not bad. And sometimes it's very funny. You can have really terrible conditions from Madras all the way down to Lapine, and take a look out at Elk Lake or that area and see that there's a big bubble of clear air, and spend your day sitting on the deck out there reading a book because you can breathe. That happened 2 years ago. So
Great. Well, thank you. That's a very interesting update, and we'll look for more information on that coming up. So thanks, Chuck.
Mm-hmm.
Boone, you can probably stop sharing your screen. And it looked like Craig had a pass, so we're going to move on to Dave Gibson from Blackbeat Ranch. Have any updates for us, Dave?
Yeah, it's interesting that I can follow that with, we finally got our burner going. The DEQ finally, I don't know about the nomenclature, but they relented and let us use our burner, and it's working fantastic. And the only other thing I would say is this virus has obviously got a lot of people on the ranch working because they have nothing else to do, and it's really showing up. And that's all I have.
Great, thanks, Dave. All right, David Mormon, Red Cross.
Good morning. Not much to report other than the same thing I said last month. We're continuing to work with county emergency managers and with the Warm Springs tribe on planning for emergency sheltering this summer during wildfire season in the virus environment. And the real emphasis is going to be utilizing non-congregate shelters like motel rooms and campgrounds versus a mass shelter in a gymnasium. So we're trying to coordinate that beforehand, so we'll have those plans in place. That's all I have to report this month.
Great, thanks, David. All right, Gary Marshall with Deschutes Rural Fire District number 2 just did send me a chat saying he did have one update, which was that the Rural Fire District had recently awarded one grant to a homeowner for $250 to assist with some debris disposal, since I'm assuming due to the early burning, they weren't able to burn that and wanted to still mitigate, get that debris disposed of. So that's an update from Gary. Thank you, Gary. Next on my list, going down here, is Dean Richardson. Dean, do you have anything to update us on from Deschutes? Oh, I'm getting a little.
Yeah, Ed, can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. My camera's not working, so you probably can't see me. Thank you so much for working around this microbe to let us keep the ball rolling here. The UDRC, Upper Deschutes River Communities, we still have 2 defensible space programs that we're working, and I wanted to report on those. The first of these programs is where we have property owners apply and get approved, and they hire a contractor to come out to help them with defensible space, and then they submit a paid invoice to us, and we pay the first $500 towards that. So this year, so far we've had 19 applications approved, and 5 of these people have already done the work and they've invoiced us, and we still have 11 applications with our current funding open. The second program is one that we have for low-income, senior, and disabled property owners. And it's a little bit more involved because we have to go through I'm forgetting right now, we have to go through an extra agency for the seniors to qualify them, and then we go out and we actually appraise the property and maybe mark small diameter trees and write up a prescription for overhanging limbs or whatever, and then we hire the contractor to go out and do the work, and that will pay up to $1,000 to help them with defensible space. And so far, this year we've only received 3 applicants. We're not really pushing it just because it's been harder to work around it. But we're going to start doing property assessments. We're going to resume them this week, and so we'll have to, like, wear face coverings, and since we're outdoors, it should work out pretty good. And we'll only have one person doing the assessments at a time. That'll be myself or Jim Larson. And we have a lot of available funds to continue that. And this is not only for our immediate CWPP area for the Upper Deschutes River, but this program extends into the Lapine CWPP. So this will be an ongoing program that'll last, I expect, at least a couple years, probably more. And so we're continuing with that. And then I have a question, if I can insert it at this point. I'm noticing a lot of traffic, I think, because people want to get out and they come by my place. I'm on the Fall River on South Century Drive, real heavy traffic. And I think since the campgrounds are closed, that a lot of these people are going to dispersed locations, and our weather is pretty good right now with all the moisture that we're getting. But I'm curious as to how we can mitigate the risks from fire starts from dispersed camping. I don't know who would address that. So okay, that would be my main question. And also with the weather, I think it's a double thing, because we're getting moisture now. That's really helping, but it's probably going to make the fine fuels grow more when things dry out a little bit. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Dean.
Yeah, Ed, I have a question too. Going along with that is the newspaper, I believe they said that the forest had like 40 fires over a period of time, where normally we have like around 20 fires over around the same time. So it sort of goes what he just said. I think there's more people out in the forest, and therefore there's more propensity for fires to be happening. Is that correct?
Yeah, those are both good observations. And looking down our participant list, doesn't look like we have anybody that's joined in from our federal partners today, but in talking to them and in other conversations, I could say that they have specifically noted that people are still getting out and going to dispersed sites instead of the developed campgrounds, which are still closed, but looking to, I just saw a note last night that BLM's starting to look to open some of their developed campgrounds. But in the meantime, they have been experiencing a lot more abandoned campfires. There's a hint that public use restrictions that normally don't start until July, and sometimes for the federal partners, even August, depending on the year, may be enacted earlier. I hate to really speak for them on that, but I know that there's at least been a keen eye looking at once any kind of spring rain like we're getting right now tapers off, that we may be seeing those much earlier than we typically do. I don't know, Ariel, if you've heard of any conversations within ODF of the same type of earlier restrictions. I know Southwest Oregon went into fire season earlier than they have since like the 1960s. So I don't know if you have any comments on fire restrictions coming our way.
Same thing that you've heard, that it might be a bit earlier this year, but they haven't confirmed that yet. They're watching the weather.
All right. Yeah, I bet we're going to see a change here in fire restrictions. Probably, I wouldn't be surprised if by the time we meet next time, anyhow. So we'll keep an eye on that and make sure to share that out to the group as those things kind of firm up. So, okay, with that, I'm going to keep moving down the list. I've got Georgia from the Rigid Eagle Crest next. You need to update, Georgia?
Okay, we had a very successful FireFree. We collected 1,791 landscape bags, which have been removed to Negus. While doing that, we established this year, because of COVID, 5 drop-off sites so that our homeowners could bring their bags to the site, and then we removed them from there. And we estimate that approximately 35% of the homeowners did that for us to help us and avoid the personal contact with the bags. In addition, we've begun this week shipping what we estimate is approximately 800 cubic yards of material. So it was very successful this year, and I think a lot of it is due to the additional advertising we did, as well as other people have said, people being at home and they needed something to do. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Georgia. All right, Greg, Brian.
Okay, the only thing I have is the grant that I got for the two locations now. I've got approval to do that, and I'm just waiting for the arborers to come in and complete that. So that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Jeff, Ben, Parks and Rec.
Good morning. Well, we have a prescribed fire unit ready to go in Shevlin Park. We just need green light and some favorable weather, so we'll look to the fall and not the fall, following spring. Other than that, just getting ready to do some light fuel reduction work. So just fire breaks around the park. So usually that's weed eater work, and we partner with Heart of Oregon for that. So we'll see if they get back to work or not. We'd love to take advantage of their services if we can. If not, it'll be my staff doing that. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. How about Jessica LaBerge?
Hello, good morning. I have no updates today, but I'm excited to be on the call. Thank you.
Great, thanks for joining us. I think I saw a note earlier that Chief Kemna had no update from Redmond. Same with Nick. How about Oliver? Any update from you?
Hey, I don't have any updates. I did have a question though.
Okay.
Chad's presentation gave us an idea of what the FireFree program costs the county. Is there any way to measure the impact that it has on our fire risk? Because that, to me, seems like something important when we're looking at the cost of the program.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard to draw a direct correlation, I guess I would say, but I look at it as this is one of our main ways of promoting people's personal responsibility to be ready for fire season each year. And although we've had a lot of wildland fire and evacuations and a couple more recent home losses, I think it's been a direct contributor in a lot of cases to having communities more prepared. And I think that you know, it looked like now $300,000 to $400,000. We'll see what this year's costs end up being. Is a small investment in what could be a huge loss. We're just looking at the losses to Paradise, for example, which is kind of on the other extreme. So recognizing that's an extreme example, but you know, losses in the billions versus a $400,000 investment to get people invested in being ready for fire season each year. I guess I'd say that's a pretty good investment, in my opinion, but it is hard to draw kind of that direct. It's kind of like fire prevention. It's hard to calculate the cost of the fire that never happens, right? But we all know that preventing those fires is well worth the investment in trying to make sure that they don't happen. So good thought though. I did get a quick update from Patty. Patty says that Sun River Owners Association is going forward with 140 acres of fuels reduction on their common area, as they do most years. They do kind of if you're not familiar with Sun River, they have several hundred acres that they rotate around on kind of a 5 to 6 year rotating basis to maintain their fuel reduction on commons areas. So they're moving forward with that contract this year. And she also noted that owners are continuing to reduce their fuels on their private properties, as is required in Sun River. And then they have a program in Sun River that actually allows their public works department to go around the roadside edge and pick those up. So that's a way for the Sun River engages their property owners in doing that fuel reduction. So let's see, Paula from Central Oregon Community College just noted not much to update, except they're very busy right now trying to figure out what their fall term is going to look like. I'm sure that's, yeah, very uncertain still right now. So thanks, Paul, for joining us. Peter Brewer with DEQ. Any updates from DEQ?
Yeah, hey, Ed. Yeah, let's see, a couple of things. Just want to comment on air quality. As Tony did mention before, we've had great air quality in the last few months. Sorry, I've got a little construction going on here. It's outside, but it sounds like it's in my head sometimes. Yeah, so we've had great air quality in part from not having the prescribed fire, but still overall, we usually have a really nice spring here, which has been wonderful. On the e-space data, I really appreciate the presentation from Chuck, and we appreciate working with Chuck on those projects. It's been fun and great. And also see that smattering of monitors out here that we use to corroborate data at times. It's been helpful, but also to see trends and see where the hotspots are. So I look at their data a lot, so that's been helpful. I did want to mention we're getting a new monitor in Lapine and a second one in Bend. It should come in before the end of the summer. Just working on the details of the contracts, things like that. Oh, and I was going to say also, I have a Purple Air monitor here at my house out by Sisters. So that shows up on Purple Air site. It's not calibrated though. So the difference between when DEQ uses a Purple Air kind of a sensor, the plant tower sensor, and when Chuck uses it with the e-space, we do a calibration and have a whole, it's a couple $1,000 to build them, but a whole different kind of way to treat the data, which is much more reliable than not. Purple Air tends to over predict PM concentrations, sometimes by up to double, but it's been useful to have it around here. Let's see. Also, I was just going to say, personally here at my house, I've got a chipper rendered for the weekend, and I'll be doing a lot of chipping of all but 6 large juniper trees I've cut down and limbing up. So that's my defensible space project for the spring.
Great, thank you.
That's about it.
All right, I've got Ray Meow from Woodside Ranch and/or Deschutes Rural Fire District number 2. Updates from you.
Hi. Yeah, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yep.
First, I want to thank the county for the grant that they gave us for the FireFree cleanup. Without that, we really could not have done the cleanup this year. I agree with everybody that the COVID virus situation has its upsides and downsides. The upside here has been that our neighbors have come out in force, removing a record amount of debris. I don't have a final number for you, but it's more than we've ever done. I think we built the second Great Wall of China out here, and through all their activities. And I'll be sending you some pictures of it. It's incredible, but it's very satisfying. The other thing is that we have been communicating with neighbors through the e-newsletter and through our regular newsletter and through email blasts. And because of that, we've had neighbors in certain areas of the subdivision who have very dangerous amounts of debris, not necessarily right within the 5 feet of their house, but within the 50 feet of the house, who have never done anything. This year, they actually went out and cleared all of that material. It was very satisfying to know that our communication actually works. And I think we were in a seminar with NFPA or somebody that said, it's how you communicate, the words you use, and how you communicate to people with different perspectives that really gets them motivated to do something. And everything we're doing here really is to change behavior, because this is, as we all know, not a one-year, one-time project for cleanup. Mother Nature just keeps going and going, so do we. So it's nice to see that behavior has changed for a lot of people and new behaviors have started. The other thing that's of concern, though, is, and I can piggyback on what people have been saying about open fires. I've noticed there have been at least 3 fires right here off China Hat Road. The latest one being, I think, within about a mile or mile and a half east of Woodside Ranch. A little bit scary. I haven't seen this amount of fire activity this early ever before, I think. The good part is, I think within 20, 30 minutes, they've been totally controlled and put out. I don't know who did it, but my thanks to whoever did it, whether it's Ben Fire or ODF or US Forest Service. Thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And keep up the good work. So that's what we have to report. Thank you, Ed.
Great, thanks, Ray. I just would comment, overall, it's great to hear from all the communities that are keeping up the work. I know early on, the virus was coming on. There was some uncertainty of still continuing with work, and I'm really happy to hear that that you've been able to figure out how to still get some work done this spring. It sounds like quite a lot of work. So next on my Stacy Lacey with the Forest Service is on, so I'm going to get to her and a couple folks that she said she could comment on some fire restrictions and give an update on the federal side. But next up I have Rick Unzueta with Black Butte Ranch. Rick, do you have anything for us? I know Dave already shared a little bit of an update, but
just a bit. The ranches we're currently in what we call a curbside pickup for the community. We're anticipating to bring in approximately 1,800 cubic yard of yard debris just this week alone. So it just adds to this pile that we have out here. Piggyback on Mr. Gibson, yeah, the incinerator has been in use now under a temporary permit for about 2 months now, and we're averaging about 325 to 350 cubic yards incinerated a week. So it's we're pleased with the effort. It's working out to everything we had hoped it would.
great, thank you. Okay, I got a note, I believe, from Rick Retzman that said he had no updates. So I'll move on to Commissioner Boone. Do you have anything additional to share?
One of my thoughts is, and I might have mentioned this in the past, our dial system, Deschutes Online Land Use System, dial.deschutes.org. I asked our map people to create a PDF for me, and it just kind of puts a yellow ring around a footprint, which I think of as our neighborhood where I live is what I'm getting at. And it's just so valuable to kind of think about that as a group of people that work together. And, you know, the neighborhood association people here, if you're ever looking for a map, the folks can create that in a PDF form. So then if you want it printed, there may be a cost, but it's just a valuable tool to kind of put a footprint to an area. If you ever have problems kind of envisioning, you know, who's in and who's out of a neighborhood. And this is, you know, for fire fuel reduction, everybody's welcome, but you know, like if it's a project area or something like that. So pretty valuable. So then switching to this COVID-19 phase 1, remember, this was a big deal for our county commission. The counties across the state at the Board of County Commissioners were the kind of the front end of this. We had a lot of great help from the staff, the hospital, the other health providers, our health department specifically at Deschutes County. So let's all work together. Remember, this is a phase 1 reopening. Hopefully we're just going to ease into it and it's going to not be an event this summer. So let's just all work together on that. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. And Stacy Lacey, Central Oregon Fire Management. I will unmute you. Okay, you should be good to go, Stacy.
Okay, great. You got me?
Yep.
Okay. I just wanted to tune in for cough mist. I'm the fire prevention specialist and mitigation specialist. And the comments as far as the higher dispersed are very, very aware of that. And we have lots of increased patrols going out and education to the public. It's not just at our level either here on the forest. Regionally, they're aware of it and beyond. So we had the discussion of putting public use restrictions is on the table as possibly early if needed because of weather, and then also factoring in the higher use. So definitely on our radar, and love to hear the positive feedback of the guys getting out and getting to the fires so quickly. Our fire modules, even due to COVID, they are all on and up and running and working as what we call family units. So they, some of the engines are even, they're put out in other areas. So if some of the engines live closer to a different place than they normally are, they have those there. So you have fire engines, not just at Scott Street. They're in Bend anymore. They're in other spots. So that helps with the being able to get out quicker to different areas. That's really all I have. We are trying to really up our education as well with social media and emails, and our PAOs are working on, you know, radio messaging, television messaging, just to let people know that yes, there is increased use, and we have seen more campfires being left unattended. So those numbers that I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was, but we're putting out that yes, it's definitely this year we are seeing more campfires left. So we are working on the education piece of that and getting out that there's alternatives that people can use for their campfires or warming fires or for their food using propane or gas and that such a thing. So that's all I have unless anybody has any questions.
Great, thanks, Stacy. And I did want to check in if there was anybody I missed. This isn't quite as easy as going around the circle in a room. I think I kept, oh, Bob's got maybe a follow-up question at least. Go ahead, Bob.
Thanks. I think you missed me in the roll call, but that's okay.
Sorry.
No problem.
I figured I must have missed somebody.
Just an update on FireWise for Mountain High. We did have a great session on May 6th with Boone and with Chase Duncan and Ariel doing our neighborhood assessment. And as Tony mentioned, there's some great maps through the county tax department that we used for doing our social distancing walk around for that assessment. So that was very successful. We're just waiting for the outcome of that assessment. And along with FireWise knowledge and getting it promoted every month in our little newsletter for our subdivision, we do put an article in about FireWise. We also have a welcome committee that goes around to new homeowners with packets of information from FireWise about the plants and defensible space and all that. So things are going well here in Mountain High. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Bob. Anybody else I missed, or any last questions or go backs from the group? If not, maybe I'll ask Boone just real shortly. We've got a couple minutes left. We don't need to take up the whole time we have, but want to mention anything about at least like the webinars we've been doing and the one coming up, just in case people haven't seen that yet.
Yep, for sure. So we've been working on some webinars that we've been hosting over the last few weeks, and those were funded through the Fire Deputy Communities Network, which was a great opportunity to use those funds. But those workshops are focused on connecting current FireWise communities and those that are becoming FireWise, sharing kind of the way that we've been anything from going through the process to reaching out or planning projects. And those are kind of the 3 topics we're focused on. But sharing that across all those communities so people are able to kind of short circuit, if you will, so they don't go through myself as I connect them with somebody else, but they're able to talk directly. And then also sharing that information of what we have that's available, and then and being able to help people build whatever they may be looking at, like Bob mentioned, newsletters, some outreach, or as Bert and others have talked about, their projects that they've planned. So those have been really good. So we got one more coming up that we just scheduled for June 3rd, which, you know, if everything goes right, I think that'll probably be our 3rd final workshop. They're a couple hours long. We invite some guest speakers. We do some breakout group sessions and get conversation going. So far, they seem to be building on one another. The first one, we had some discussion a little bit. You know, people I think are shy, just like we are, as we learn how to use Zoom. But the second session went really well, lots of discussion, really valuable stuff that came through it. As Ray mentioned, we talked about how we talk to people and just kind of bringing to light some of those things that are sometimes go unnoticed, but can make big differences in our neighborhoods. So the last one that we're planning is community project planning. So we'll be talking about how to organize your community from anything from just a FireWise event or a FireWise day where you have guest speakers to something where you're actually organizing the community to do some kind of work on the ground, cleaning gutters, replacing vegetation, or whatever it might be. So looking forward to that one, June 3rd. I think most people have seen the announcement go out. One other thing that I wanted to throw out there that was kind of glanced over on the FireWise side of things, Rick Retzman passed, but you know, congratulations to those guys. It's been kind of a long journey, but we finally sorted out everything for FireWise, and last week they were notified that their recognition was received and accepted, and they're joining the FireWise Communities Network that we have here in Deschutes County. So congratulations to Trout Creek Village. I think that's everything I got, Ed.
Okay, great. And looked like we did have one. Yeah, thumbs up, Rick. We had one question for Dean Richardson. Dean, if you're still on, it looks like you are on. Meet you. Bert is wondering where you found the sources for the funding you were speaking about that's funding some of the homeowner work that you're doing.
I don't actually make the applications for the grants myself. That's Jerry Hubbard in the UDRC. So you could get more specific information from him. But we've got it from a number of sources. We get contributions every year from some of our communities, recently we got a $5,000 grant from the railroad, and there's some restriction for that because they want it to be communities that are closer to the railroad so they can justify it. But we've spent almost all that money. We got a grant from First Interstate Bank, they're actually very active in trying to help in the communities where their banks are located. And they helped to start this low-income senior and disabled program. So we did a pilot program with funds we received from them. And because it looked like it was going pretty well, we were able to kind of parlay that. And then we got a huge grant from MCM corporate outfit. I think it's Meredith McDonald, something like that. And that's a huge grant for the low-income senior and disabled. Yeah, Jerry would give you more specific information because there are a lot there. For years, all the grant money had pretty much dried up, and in the last 2 years, we've been a lot more successful. But that's because we've had one person that's been kind of dogged in trying to track down every thing, and maybe, you know, you might apply for 3 or 4 times as many grants as we actually get considered for, but it's still keeping us going.
Thanks, Dean. I think we're just about ready to close out then. I did have one update that came across to me last night, and that's that George Chesley, who's been with Project Wildfire since the beginning, basically, has entered into hospice care, and I was going to put his contact information up if anybody wants to send him a card or well wishes. His email, phone number, and address are up there in the chat box. And then finally, Tony's reminding us that today is primary election day, so make sure, if you haven't yet, to get in your ballot. And with that, I think we'll go ahead and close out, Bert, and we will hook you up with Jerry's contact information. I see that. Thanks, everybody, for joining in today. Hopefully this works for you as a format. We might be doing at least one more of these, maybe more. So if you have suggestions for improvement or other topics you'd like to see us addressing, make sure to send any input our way to either Boone or I. We'll try to work that into the next coming meetings. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.